For many dermatologists, it is important to have a relationship with media. And this is not only to just promote our practice, but really to let the patients know what it is that we are specialists in and what it is that we do. So having a relationship with the media, I think, is important. And I think there are several ways that you can try to accomplish that. Certainly the easiest way to do this is to hire a publicist in your area who can promote your practice for certain topics. I think having a web presence is also important so that if somebody searches for an expert in a topic like psoriasis, acne, neurotoxin injections, if they come up with your website, they may be able to contact you directly. But I do think there's perks to being involved with media, and not only is it important to really promote your practice, but I think it's also important to use media to promote dermatology in general and to educate patients, and I think that's where we really can bring some value. So for example, in the spring, there's lots of stories about how to protect yourself from the sun's harmful rays in the summer. So lots of dermatologists will appear in print and television media or online media like blogs or websites, giving advice about sunscreen use, about sun protection. So not only is it important for us because we are promoting ourselves as dermatologists, but it's also important for us as educators because we are taking the time to educate the patients. Other ways that we can use media to educate our patients is to let them know about a new treatment or procedure that may be available to treat their condition, because lots of patients may not seek medical help because maybe they went to see somebody 5 years ago and nobody could help them. Well, now there's something new that can help them. So how do you do that outreach? Well, a lot of it is through media. So it is important to become available and to be available really at any time for media interviews, quotes, etc. And not only is it to put your practice on the map, but also really to help the patients understand what's out there that can help them. When working with media, be it TV, print, web-based media, I think it's very important to have a clear message. I also think it's important for that message to be concise, because you may spend a half an hour on the phone interviewing for a newspaper piece and only be quoted with 2 sentences. That happens all the time. So you really have to understand the point that you're trying to drive home. And if you have to repeat it several times, it's okay. That's what media training is all about. So have a concise message, have a clear message, and really use key words that would make it easy for patients to understand what it is that you're trying to tell them, and make the quote that you have or the interview that you have searchable and really important for the news outlet that is using you for this particular quote. So, and that's how you get people to come back and ask you for more information. So if you give them useful information every time they call, they're likely to call you back. And this is a way that you can build a relationship with the media, because it is a two-way street. If you're not giving them what they want in a concise, clear way with keywords that they can then use, I think they're not likely to come back and ask you for more information. So you really have to have that idea from the beginning and drive that point home during the interview that you have. The importance of having a clear and concise message is not only to drive your point across, but also to make sure that you're not being taken out of context or you're not being misquoted. So all the time we see this in the news. Somebody said something in a context of a half an hour speech, and then they run with a single sentence where they've completely taken it out of context. So how do we avoid that? Well, it's important to be comfortable with everything that you're saying. So if somebody decides to only use a snippet of an interview or a phone interview that they're going to print or publish online, it's really important that you're comfortable with everything that you've said. So be clear, be concise, and it's okay to repeat your message over and over again if that's what you want your message to be. So it's really important to have that idea in your mind before you even start the interview, so that you don't say something that you don't really mean and then get misquoted, because once that happens, it's very hard to kind of back it up. So be careful, be concise, be clear about what you want to say, and make sure that everything you're saying is something you're comfortable with somebody printing or showing on television. If you're doing a television interview for the first time, it's very important to practice, just like you've practiced your presentation that you've given to your peers. It's really no different. Lots of times producers will have questions already that they know that the host will ask you, so getting a copy of those questions and having the answers in your mind already is very helpful. Lots of times that doesn't happen. So if it doesn't happen, you want to try to stay within the boundary of the topic. So if someone is trying to get you off topic, you can always say, well, that's really important, but I'm here to talk about this, and really try to bring them back. So practice does make perfect, and there's lots of resources available for us. For example, I know for a fact that the American Academy of Dermatology has media training that you could take, and other professional organizations that you may belong to likely also have somebody who's a media expert. So if you are going to be recording videos, be quoted in newspapers, magazines, online resources, it is very important to get some media training before you take that leap. In conclusion, I think it is very important to have a media presence in order to build your practice or move your practice in one direction or another. Having said that, I think it's also difficult, so we may need to get help from really professionals to do this. Folks like publicists, folks that are really experts in media training, and you really have to be trained and have to know what it is that you want to accomplish. It's not good enough to say, oh, I want to be on TV, I want to be in newspapers, I want to be on websites. You really have to have a goal in mind in order to not only grow your practice, but what is it that you want to educate patients about? Because when you're on, you really are a resource for folks that are watching, reading, etc. for that particular condition. So have an idea of what you want to accomplish, where you want to move your practice, and then have a plan of action really with a clear, concise message that you want to have out there in the media.